We want to be clear. Marvel Rivals does not use EOMM.
Marvel Rivals just dropped a huge video talking about the matchmaking in Marvel Rivals. They said they would, so they're going to discuss, hopefully, EOMM, whether it's in the game, how matchmaking works, and shed light on the biggest, I suppose, controversy that sort of overshadows the game at the moment. This is quite a long video. It's 18 minutes, so strap in. We're going to watch this and give my opinions on it as we go. Let's delve into this.
Hi Rivals, I'm Zuyong. We've heard your passionate feedback and ongoing discussions about matchmaking and ranking in Marvel Rivals. Your voices matter, and we want to give you a transparent look into how these systems work and what we are doing to improve them. Quick heads up, any numbers used are for illustrative purpose only, and the calculation process is also simplified for easier understanding and does not represent the full detailed formulas.
Okay. How competitive points are calculated?
After every competitive match, your score is calculated based on two key components, base points and performance points.
Now, before we get into this any further, I just want to say, if they go into the nitty-gritty here, we're going to need to read into this very carefully. And the funny thing is, whenever people talk about matchmaking, I've had the same thing with Apex Legends. People get very, very emotional about it, very involved, because they play the game in and out, and it can be a very emotional experience. But the way these algorithms work, funnily enough, usually end up being a lot simpler than people might think. So let's see if that's the case for Marvel Rivals and if they'll even delve into that. But just keep your heads open. Keep your minds open here.
Each weighted according to your current rank. The formula looks like this.
K equal A base points. Wait.
This depends on match outcome, your current competitive score, average competitive score of the enemy team. First, the match result determines whether you gain or lose points.
Yeah.
Win and you will gain points, lose and you will lose points.
The competitive score is like MMR?
The difference between your competitive score and the enemy team's average competitive score affects how many points you gain or lose.
Pretty straightforward, right?
If a player's competitive score is lower than that of the enemy team, the system recognizes that the player is challenging a stronger opponent.
It's a very straightforward MMR
A victory
system.
will grant an extra bonus to the base points, while a defeat will result in fewer points deductions. The reverse applies when facing lower ranked teams.
Yep. I'll put timestamps below so we can kind of go through each topic individually. Obviously, right now they're talking about competitive RP gain and loss. They may get more into the skill-based matchmaking side later on, so we'll put timestamps in the comments so you can skip around if you so want to.
Players' competitive score 3,500. Enemy team's average 3,500. Win plus 20 base points. Lost minus 20 base points. Players' competitive score 3,500.
Yeah.
Enemy team's average.
Basically talking about MMR, right? Pretty straightforward. The win-loss system, pretty straightforward. The game determines what your MMR is and will give you more or less points depending on how you stack up against them, as far as the system understands each individual player's skill.
Base points. Lost minus 25 base points.
How does the performance points work? That will be interesting.
This reflects your individual performance tailored to your hero's role. Performance points reflect how well you played during the match.
Going to the specifics
because
here.
Heroes in Marvel Rivals have widely different powers and roles. We don't just tally up stats. Even if two players contribute equally to the outcome, their raw stats may look very different depending on which hero they played.
Yeah, that's definitely very
To accurately evaluate your impact, we use several steps to calculate performance points. For each hero used in the match, We normalize match stats to a per 10-minute value and convert that into a single performance value.
Right.
We compare that to the average performance value for that same hero at your rank, also per 10 minutes. That gives a hero-specific performance coefficient. The better you perform versus the average, the higher your coefficient.
So, every single hero in the game will have a baseline in that rank. For example, you're doing X amount of damage on Phoenix per 10 minutes. If you're doing more than the average at your rank, so the average gold player does X amount of damage every 10 minutes with Phoenix. If you do more than that average and you're gold, you'll get a higher performance bonus. If you do less than that, you'll get a lower performance bonus. So it's all going to be dependent on the average performance of every player across all heroes.
If you played multiple heroes, we time weight those to get your match coefficient. So
in that way, basically, let's say you play 8 minutes of Phoenix and 2 minutes of Lunar Snow. It's going to weight your performance, 80% of your performance on Phoenix, and then 20% of your performance will be Lunar Snow. So let's say you do really well with Phoenix 80% of the match and really badly with Lunar Snow for 20% of the match. You're going to be playing for 80% of the time very well, then you should expect more performance bonus, right?
Compare your performance coefficient to your team's average to determine your final performance points.
So it will also check back and determine how well you're doing alongside your teammates as well. That's interesting.
Examples. A Diamond 1 player spends 4 minutes as Loki and 6 minutes as Invisible Woman in a 10-minute match. Let's break down the performance points calculation. First, the system converts their in-game stats to 10-minute averages and then convert them into performance value. Assuming Loki has a performance value of 1,200 and Invisible Woman has 1,000. Next, the system finds the average performance value for Diamond 1 players with those heroes, which we will assume Loki and Invisible Woman both are 1,000.
By the way, this kind of points an interesting, I suppose, maybe a loophole with this. I mean, well, not really. But if there's a really bad hero and you're really good with them, then you might actually get more points, rank up faster with a higher performance bonus because you're just generally so much better than the average player playing that hero. So playing underrated heroes may benefit you. However, you also have to consider that the underrated hero is probably just going to win you less games. So maybe if you're super cracked out of your mind with Black Widow or something, it may actually pay off.
We then calculate the performance coefficients. Loki's coefficient is 1.2, Invisible Woman's is 1. This is then weighted by playtime. The overall coefficient works out to be 1.08. Finally, this player's coefficient is compared to the other 5 teammates. Let's say that they are 1, 1, 0.8, 0.8, and 1.15, resulting in an average of 0.97. This gives us the final adjusted performance coefficient of 1.11.
Where the base points and performance was. So we're still talking about point gain here. I hope they do go into the actual matchmaking side of things. This is a long video, 13 more minutes to go, so bear with us. I'm glad that they're breaking
your base
this down,
points
though.
and performance points are calculated, your final score is determined by weighting these two parts. The weights vary by rank. As you climb the ranks, the weighting of base points will gradually increase, while performance points weighting decreases.
So basically what that means is in lower ranks, if you perform well, you're going to speed through the ranks fairly quickly. In higher ranks, it's going to matter less. Just winning and losing is going to be more important in higher ranks. Your individual performance is going to start to matter less. And that's good because it means if you're smurfing or you're in a rank that you shouldn't be because you're just that much better at the game, you will cruise through the earlier ranks.
Lower ranks, performance points have a higher weight to help skilled players rise faster.
He's just saying it. We should
Higher
listen to him
ranks
first.
shift weight towards base points for consistency. Example, a player wins a rank match, earning 20 base points and 30 performance points. If the player is in silver, with a base point weight of 0.4 and a performance point weight of 0.6, the final score gained is 26. If the player is in celestial, with a base point weight of 0.7 and a performance point weight of 0.3, the final score gained is 23.
So yeah, once again, they're just saying that the base point, so how much you get for just winning and losing, will be far more important higher ranks. Your individual performance matters more in lower ranks, and you'll get more points, performance bonus points in lower ranks for your individual performance. Matchmaking system overview. This is what we are here for, the juicy stuff.
Our players hail from all corners of the globe, each with different time zones and connection speeds. Balancing fast matchmaking with fair matches has always been our challenge and focus for ongoing improvement.
Matchmaking mechanics, here we go.
In Marvel Rivals, players are matched based on server node selection, team composition, competitive score.
So server node, I'm sure he's going to get into all of these details. Let's listen to him first.
Once matchmaking starts, the system looks for opponents on your chosen server or servers. As wait time increases, the system gradually expands the search to higher and lower ranks, helping you get into a match promptly. The expansion is kept to prevent unbalanced games. Once we have 12 players within the acceptable rank range, the match is set. Teams are then arranged to minimize differences in average competitive scores.
So far, and I've done a lot of research on all sorts of matchmaking systems across a lot of games. This is the typical thing so far. I don't know if they go into more detail here, but very, very often for live service games to prioritize speed more than anything, but have caps on the high and low end so that you're not having too much of a skill variance. You know, you don't want to have silvers going against celestials, for example. There will be a upper and lower difference. And the most important part is we're going to have to watch it more, but usually skill isn't necessarily a large part of matchmaking. But once you're already in the match, team balance is then based on your skill rating. So they'll try to balance teams based on your skill after the match has already started to try and make for fairer games. Now, let's hope we hear more about this as we go, but that's just a breakdown of what he's saying, essentially. So this is the team matchmaking part, as I just said.
Team matchmaking is based on team size. For fairness, a 6-player team will only face another 6-player team.
Yeah.
Fighting an exact match can take time when taking into account all the factors, like competitive scores, server selection, etc. Since launch, 5-player teams have been disabled to protect solos. For other team size, the system opens up to more combinations as wait time increases. Take a 4-player team, for example. The first system tries to match with another 4-player team, but if none are promptly found, it will eventually expand to mixed teams like 4-1-1 versus 3-2-1. Longer waits means broader competitive scores ranges, and reaching the upper limit of the range can result in a difference in scores between the two teams. From the matchmaking results, this would appear to be an unbalanced battle. However, tightening the rules would mean much longer waits and a bad experience.
Yeah.
This is the core challenge.
Every game
Balancing
has this
matchmaking
issue.
quality and speed. Team kills make this speed versus quality trade-off more noticeable. At higher ranks, there are fewer players and they are spread across different servers, so this happens more often. So, after careful review, starting in Season 3.5, we've temporarily restricted teams of 4 or 6 players from matchmaking at higher ranks, where their balanced matches are harder to fight. Moving forward, we will continue to explore new solutions to better meet the diverse needs of players.
Nothing about...
To help you better understand how the matchmaking
EOMM
system works, here's an example scenario. Suppose player A teams up with player B and player C to queue for competitive. In this scenario, player A is Diamond 1, player B is Diamond 3, player C is Platinum 1. The average rank of this 3-player team is around Diamond 3. They select only the Oregon server node for matchmaking, since there aren't enough teams of the same size and rank in the queue on this node. The matchmaking system gradually expands the search range as time passes. After 5 minutes, the system finds 9 more players who meet the criteria. These 9 players include another 3-player team with an average rank of Platinum 1, a 2-player team with an average rank of Diamond 2, and 4 solo players, Player D, Diamond 1, Player E, Diamond 2, Player F, Platinum 1, Player G, Diamond 2. To ensure fairness, the system first places the 2 3-person teams on opposite sides. Then, the remaining team compositions are Side A, 3-player team plus 2-player team plus 1 solo player. Side B, 3-player team plus 3 solo players. Now, the exact team split is determined by the solo players to make both sides' average ranks as close as possible. The fairest division is Side A, 3-player team, Diamond 3 average, plus 2-player team, Diamond 2 average, plus Player F, Platinum 1. Side B.
So I'm just going to pause it here. So far, they're basically just explaining that the matchmaker will look at all of the skill ratings of players that have just been put in a match together and just try to create the fairest composition on both sides based on their competitive rating. Now, in this case, they use their average rank. I'm not sure whether or not in-game it uses their competitive score, which is what I understand is basically MMR. Either way, it's trying to balance based on fairness. And so far, there has been no mention of anything related to engagement-based matchmaking. Nothing about saying that if you play for a long time, you will go against more difficult opponents, or if you don't play, if you start to get frustrated, for example, you get easier opponents. Nothing about that yet. This is just talking about the bog standard, honestly, skill-based matchmaking, and a lot of games have very similar systems in place.
3-player team, Platinum 1 average, plus Player D, Diamond 1, plus Player E, Diamond 2, plus Player G, Diamond 2. In this scenario, there are still notable rank gaps within each side. For example, Side A's Player F, Platinum 1, and Side B's Player D, Diamond 1, each have a 2 to 3 division differences from their teammates. This means there can be internal team imbalances. Assume, once the match begins, the role selections are as follows. Side A, the 3-player team picks a Vanguard Player A, Duelist Player B, and Strategist Player C. The 2-player team chooses a Vanguard and a Duelist. Player F, a Duelist main, sticks with his preferred role instead of filling the missing Strategist slot. To balance the team, the Duelist Player B from the 3-player team fills as a Strategist. Side B, the 3-player team picks a Vanguard, Duelist, and Strategist. Player D picks an additional Strategist, Player E picks another Vanguard, Player G picks another Duelist. We believe that this is a situation many players have encountered before. In this case, Side B has a strategic advantage, as all 6 players are playing their main roles. On Side A, a Duelist main is forced to fill as a strategist. And the lowest ranked player is also playing Duelist, which may weaken the team's synergy.
Alright, here we go. So basically, even after all of that skill-based matchmaking going into play, you do just get situations where things still feel unbalanced. And obviously, the devs don't want that to happen, neither do the players. There doesn't seem to be a clear answer yet. And that example really explained it really well. If you have, just by chance, a team that ends up queuing together and one player can't play their main, and that player may be the weakest player on the team just by chance, it's going to make you feel like your team has paid actors, or it feels like you're being forced into engagement-based matchmaking because suddenly your team is terrible. When in fact, you kind of just rolled a dice and got unlucky. And that seems to be something that happens consistently in Marvel Rivals when you've got such large selection of heroes and roles. Not everyone's going to feel comfortable and strong every single game. You know, you may have a player that's played 10 games in a row on their main, done really well, and then the next game they suddenly are forced into a role that they're really bad at, and they absolutely throw for the rest of the team. You know, that's more down to individual playstyles, and I think it's hard to matchmake for that because you choose your character after matchmaking happens, and you're allowed to switch character mid-game in Marvel Rivals. So, and I think it's good that you can do that, but that definitely raises a flaw in the matchmaking experience.
Recently, we have received a lot of feedback from the community, with many players believing that our matchmaking system employs EOMM,
this is the important part.
engagement optimized matchmaking. This would imply manipulating the matchmaking queue to keep players' win rates around 50%, ensuring they remain engaged in the game. We want to be clear, Marvel Rivals does not use EOMM. So, why do some matches feel uneven? Why do certain players encounter win or loss streaks? We would like to take this opportunity to provide some insights, hoping to clarify some of the confusion for everyone.
All right, match balance.
In a competitive two-sided game, the fewer players on each side, the more accurately the competitive score reflects individual skill. However, as team size increases, this accuracy drops, since even if both teams have identical average scores, other factors like teamwork and coordination can sway the outcome. Additionally, because we don't lock roles, players might end up playing a role they are less comfortable with, which means they may not perform at their rank's full potential.
Just like I said, because the matchmaking happens before role selection, the matchmaking cannot determine what people are going to be playing what roles. The system will know if a player is really good at playing Iron Man, for example, and really bad at playing Lunar Snow. But the matchmaker cannot determine if that player will get to play Iron Man or Lunar Snow, because it happens after matchmaking is already completed, after team balance has already happened, and it's something that you cannot balance without having matchmaking happen after role selection, which would then force role lock, which is something that I think we all agree we don't want in Marvel Rivals, right? So you see the flaw and the problem here. It's not that there's EOMM. It's like you're rolling a 20-sided dice, right? And if you roll a 20, you got the perfect team, and you're just rolling through them. And the enemies are just completely uncoordinated and in a mess. If you roll a 1, on the other side of the situation, everyone's playing a role that they're not comfortable with, and the enemy team is really coordinated, have a couple strong teams that are coming together in Discord, and everyone's on the roles that they like, right? And then every time you play a game, you're rolling that 20-sided dice every single time. You could get unlucky and roll a 1 5 times in a row, and that is your loss streak, right? It's almost just based on the luck of a dice roll. And you would be surprised that if you got a dice and you rolled it, it may seem impossible, but there'll be times where you roll the same number multiple times in a row, or perhaps a coin flip. You'll keep flipping multiple times in a row, even though it seems impossible. That's a loss streak and a win streak in a sense. It's just almost based on luck or how things
Even if
end up,
you are assigned your preferred role, playing a hero you are less skilled with can also affect your impact in the match. So, why don't we add role queue? First, we believe that allowing players the freedom to play as their favorite superheroes and team up with others to create diverse creative team combos encourages more varied strategies and gameplay. Second, adding role-based matchmaking would significantly increase queue times, while still failing to fully eliminate skill discrepancies between matches. Where there are choices, there will be differences. Objectively, it's quite challenging to have an equal number of players across the 3 roles. To strike a balance between matchmaking speed and fairness, the competitive score ranges for each role would have to differ. Roles with fewer players would have lower competitive score thresholds, while roles with more players would require higher thresholds. This, in turn, will lead to greater variance in match quality. We are working to introduce more interesting vanguards and strategies in future updates to give players more choices, but these changes will take time to develop. We thank you for your patience.
Win-loss streaks. Okay, let's hear about it.
Statistically, win and loss streaks are a matter of probability.
Yeah, so like I just said with the dice roll, right? This is matchmaking 101, and Well, let's just hear what he has to say, but it pretty much just echoes what I've been saying. You know, like I say, I've done a lot of research coming from Apex Legends. I know how horrible that game can feel at times, and it can feel like engagement optimized matchmaking. But really, fairness, one, and matchmaking time, two. Like, those are the two most important things to keep a live service game rolling as efficiently as possible. And that's what keeps players on the game longer than normal. At least that's what happens in other games, so it's not surprising to see it here in Marvel Rivals.
For example, if two sides are truly 50-50, over 3 games, the chance of 3 consecutive wins or losses is 12.5%. Over 10 games, the chance of 3 or more wins or losses in a row rises to 50%. So, over enough games, everyone will eventually experience win or loss streaks. For those interested, you can use tools to calculate the probability of achieving a streak, whether it's 5 consecutive wins or 5 consecutive losses, under different win rate scenarios over 10 matches. Of course, the game isn't pure math. Several in-game factors can increase the likelihood and impact of streaks, making these experiences feel more pronounced. For example, team average scores are rarely perfectly balanced, so actually win rates may not be exactly 50%. When queuing consecutively, you may face some of the same players in back-to-back games, which can carry over the outcome chance from previous matches.
This is an important thing as well. This does happen a lot. You will get the same players in your matches repeatedly, especially if you're in a low population region or you're playing at a low population time of day, you know, very early or very late at night. And if you end up, unfortunately, getting on the team of the tilted players multiple times in a row, that's going to increase your odds of getting a loss streak, right?
This is even more common in team matchmaking, where the pool of available combinations is smaller, especially during off-peak hours or in less populated regions. Even if the probability of a streak occurring is just 1%, Marvel Rivals' large player base means many will experience them.
Yeah.
We are constantly analyzing feedback and refining our systems. Your trust and input help us shape a better experience. Thank you for being part of the Marvel Rivals community. We are excited to keep improving with you.
So, obviously, that is not the answer that a lot of people are going to want to hear. A lot of people are going to watch this video and go, he's lying, they're hiding the truth. But honestly, I never really felt like EOMM made much sense in this game. I think that it's just a base of probability. And, you know, probability and rolling a dice or flipping a coin is the simplest form of engagement-based anything, right? If you think of gambling, right, it's an engagement trick. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, you don't know. Sometimes you can win 10 times in a row. Sometimes you can lose 10 times in a row. It all comes down to math. And when it comes to winning in Marvel Rivals, you just have to increase your probability. And there's a lot of ways you can do that. You can be nicer to your teammates. You can stop yourself from being tilted. You can learn more roles and more heroes. And you take breaks whenever you start to get a bit frustrated. Those things will increase your probability of winning, which will then in turn make you have less loss streaks, right? I don't know. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. I think that's pretty much explains everything fairly well. So props to the devs. Is this the answer you were looking for, or do you feel like you're still not satisfied? Let me know. I'll see you in the comments. Cheerio.